Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. I have my new friend Ryan Dewey Smith with me. Ryan, I'm really excited. I can't wait to hear about your journey and your book, and we'll talk about Imperium as well. Why don't you start, just introduce the audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Jeff. I look forward to today's conversation. I am an entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Imperium Inc., which is a parent holding company of nonprofit businesses that today operate in 20 states, creating impacts to individuals with intellectual disabilities, foster children, the school system, and other behavioral health and human services organizations. I've been doing my work for over 3 decades. I live in Florida with my wife and 2 boys, and I'm excited about unpacking everything we have to talk about today, Jeff.
I love it. And for those who are tuning in, we were talking about the recent Artemis 2 launch. So you got the front row to that. Now, let's talk about, I think it's a fascinating thing that you've created, as I understand it, a parent company with a bunch of nonprofits under it. I happen to be obsessed with philanthropy, and I'm bothered by traditional the charity model where you take bleeding hearts, no offense, but they love the cause and their heart's in the right place, but their focus is giving away money and helping people. They don't really focus on value. So I want to see how you came to that world, because I have a weird suspicion you bring your entrepreneurial mind to your philanthropy. Is that fair?
Very fair, Jeff. My first business began in 1993, and it operated in Reading, Pennsylvania, serving individuals with intellectual disabilities. That business grew through the early to mid 2000s to a scale where we were no longer competitive in the marketplace because of rising costs associated primarily with the back office expenses to running the business. These items like payroll, finance, legal, insurances, IT. What I created was a parent company, Imperium, that through its synthetic ownership, it owns the membership interests of the nonprofits, kludges together 40 companies that use the scale economies and the back office costs to drive efficiencies to their mission, so that more of their dollars that they receive from philanthropic efforts, grants from the federal and state government, commercial payers, actually end up having the positive impacts to the people who need the services. The child at home with the first-time mom who has English as a second language that's struggling in school, the foster child who needs food for lunch, the individual with intellectual disabilities who wants to be competitively employed. Those are the folks that have the benefits of what Imperium creates impacting their lives. That scale, Jeff, drives meaningful dollars into every one of those companies to sustain their mission and grow their reach.
I have chills just thinking about it, because to me, my old life, I used to audit nonprofits, and I'd cringe when they'd be excited that their admin was less than 85%. I'm like, wait a minute, why do we have 10,000 charities? Why don't we have one central charity? And I'm fascinated by that, because in the for-profit world, we look to scale, we look at efficiency, and in nonprofit, it's honestly, most of it feels a little like money laundering. Like, it's just, you're washing it through. And again, I love charity, but for me, I'd rather help a charity build an asset that keeps giving them money, rather than, okay, I donated now and you'll be back next week for another donation.
Or your donation, Jeff, supports infrastructure and not people.
Yeah. And that is the part I cannot reconcile. I love the charities that send people door to door, but I also know how much they pay the person who comes to my door. I'm donating to keep that person knocking on other people's doors. I'd rather send the money to do the work that the charity wants to do, not the overhead and the infrastructure, as you called it. So that is a fascinating. You and I are going to have multiple conversations on this because there's zero chance we're going to get through it all today. So first of all, I feel like Imperium is Latin. Am I close?
You are not close.
So
There's one.
what's the meaning of it, and why that word for you?
Latin Imperium is for empire, which we correlate into constellation. We refer to ourselves in our network as a constellation, where each entity is contingent upon the other's gravitation or pull or services line to sustain our constellation and our enterprise. So that's why Imperium.
I love it. Bonus points for Latin. That's my favorite language. I'm terrible at it, but I love playing with the words. But I'm finding, and this is part of my joy in the podcast. I originally set out to meet entrepreneurs, and what I'm finding, and you're no exception here, is either they're serial or parallel. They'll run multiple companies over the course of their life, either in sequence or all at once. But all of them have some philanthropic wing that the reason they do the other stuff is to keep the philanthropic wing going. So I love that you've made philanthropy literally your business.
We have, and I have a shirt on today that is our actual foundation that we have at Imperium. That is cool. The Anchor Foundation, which supports women with ovarian cancer. And it was founded in honor of my mother-in-law, who passed away a little over 8 years ago from ovarian cancer. So not only do we have philanthropic efforts that occur in our 14 companies, we use the work we do at Imperium to sponsor and manage our own foundation that supports those women.
I love it. And, it's fascinating to me because people like Bill Gates get a lot of flack because they're billionaires, and the mindset is they should give their money away so we can all squander it rather than have them focus. But what I think too many people miss is the effort that they put into their foundations. And whether you like his software or not, Bill Gates has done a lot for water safety. It's kind of funny because I read an interview of his, and the man is just absolutely obsessed with waterborne illness and diarrhea. And he reads book after book on the subject. And I'm like, that is not an evil man. I mean, it's a little strange, but he's not evil.
Agreed.
And again, I'm not mocking the work he does. I think it's just genius that, there's a lot of talk about how do we make the world a better place. Let's start by helping people drink water that's safe.
Agreed. Very basic, fundamental.
So you have a fantastic structure, and I'm in awe of this. I always recognize things that are impressive. How did you start going down that road? Like, I know you started because of your mother-in-law, but I'm just thinking out loud that you would have got a lot of advice saying you're crazy, you need to do it this way. So tell me about that crazy moment when you listened to your heart and soul rather than your advisors.
Your best advice in life are the naysayers and the people that call you crazy, Jeff. If you pay more attention to them, you're going to be more successful than listening to the cheerleaders that are agreeing with you and egging you on, just for the record, in my experience.
Let's underline that for the show, because that is the golden nugget of today. So, first one, best one. So there you go.
Best one so far, Jeff. Let's not set the bar too low, right? A little over 12 years ago, I went out and tried to find a partner for my original business that was operating in Pennsylvania because I couldn't get a hold of the costs of my back office. Year after year, I was having to depend upon more leap of faith funding, philanthropic donations to sustain my operations. My wait lists were growing, my outcomes were declining. So I went out to try to find a partner that I could work with that would help to drive my back office costs down from 20% of every dollar to somewhere in the mid-teens. Terrible experience, Jeff. I met with 3 potential suitors, did not go well. When you think a merger or acquisition and you get that pit in your stomach, that is real. That is what it felt like. Slash and burn, loss of jobs, people you had served that may be considered high risk by others would be discharged. So I decided that I was going to take everything I learned from those 3 failed attempts and do it myself, but do it from the lens of what I didn't like about what was being offered and what I thought needed to be done differently to create this opportunity for other CEOs, other entrepreneurs, other founders to become part of something larger without risking their autonomy, their independence, their mission, how they treat their folks, how they invest their philanthropic funds, by giving them access to lower priced back office services. And I do that through Inperium as the parent company and its wholly owned back office subsidiary, APIS, which is where all those back office services come from to the affiliates at, by the way, Jeff, less than 10% of their revenues are now all of those companies' general and administrative exposure costs.
Wow. And I'm fascinated by that because there's so much waste in regular businesses, but also I find, and I'm obsessed by this because I keep looking at the nonprofit world and I'm like, if only there was a better way. And who knew I was just waiting to meet you, because I think that's one of the things, the most successful people I know, all of them look at administrative, let's call it sunk costs, and say, it's expensive to have, an entire C-suite and then have all the teams just to do one thing. And so many businesses, I can't afford to hire somebody. I don't have, there's always somebody looking for that 0.25 of a person. And I'm like, which part of the person is that? Whereas if you're looking at it from a holistic point of view, you can build the best possible team. It's fascinating to me because there's a lot of hedge funds that do this similar. They acquire companies as strategic plays in their portfolio.
You can lever scale, create savings, and not jeopardize autonomy and independence. It's an art and it requires partnerships and creativity, but it is doable. There is a way that we can scale and create efficiencies for any business. We're agnostic to service line or geography. All businesses have, generally speaking, the same back office demands. We all need payroll. We all require finance, human resources, corporate and employee insurances. Our sunk costs should be the least possible expense profile in our businesses when we're in behavioral health, human service, or physical health services. Whatever isn't touching the patient or client at the end is waste at this point. We need to keep that waste to a minimum.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's talk about your book, because no small feat. You took 30 years of massive experience. And again, we're going to have different conversations about each of these at some point. How did the book come about, and what's the message in the book you want people to walk away with?
The book was a collaboration with Forbes. They reached out to me having read about Inperium and understood my story. And in partnership with them, I was able to produce my first book, Sustaining the Mission, which will be formally released the 22nd of September of 2026. The book is 14 chapters. Each chapter is its own individual story or case record of my life growing up, my first business, several of the partnerships that we created in Inperium early on, here most recently. One of the chapters talks about our municipal public tax exempt financing that we did in 2024 for $200 million to allow us to go out and advance IT infrastructure and help our businesses with access to reasonably sourced capital. It's a great read. It's an easy read. I enjoy doing it. And as I told you before the show, Jeff, I learned more in writing the 14 chapters than I did in the 32 years that it took to come up with a book worthy of 65,000 words.
I love that. And for what it's worth, I'm going to really share my perspective. You just remembered all of the wisdom you knew. And it feels like you learned something because you were taking what you knew and finding a way to make it cohesive. Because I can't remember who said that a life unexamined is not a life unlived. I think a lot of us, we miss that opportunity to reflect. So what was your biggest aha moment as you're writing the book? Because I've seen this in every author. There's one chapter, it's your favorite child. What was your favorite chapter in that book that you have written?
This will probably tell you a lot about me. The last chapter, which talks about where we're going, not where we've been. So the last chapter highlights 4 strategic, forward-thinking ideas where I believe, project, and contemplate our business will need to go and what we will need to do differently as we move forward for the next 32 years under a new leader, not me, under AI and its implication to our businesses, under what I believe to be funding and rate cuts that are going to have major impacts to the people we serve, and how efficiency is going to become even more important. So I believe the first 13 chapters set the stage for the last one, which is what's possible in the peripheral, basically meaning always looking out in front and doing your cross checks has to be what guides us, relying on what we've learned, but having a very short memory, Jeff. And you have to swing the bat 1,000 times to get 300 hits to get in the Hall of Fame. You have to keep swinging, right?
I love that. And I kind of see the first 13 chapters as the foundational launch pad, and chapter 14 is the moonshot, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Sorry, we're space nerds in our house, so total tangent. But while the world was waiting for Artemis to splash down, my youngest was assembling a model that Amazon luckily delivered right as we sat down to watch the splashdown. So we have a full Lego version of Artemis in our house, and
oh wow!
he
So
literally
came out with an Artemis version.
Yeah, and it even extends, and it is cool. My wife says I bought it for her. My kids say I bought it for them. I'm staying out of it, but it was just funny because that's what we did while we waited for, the splashdown and all that stuff. But yeah, so we're space nerds. So lots of space analogies. So of the stuff you're looking forward to, and September is the launch for the book, and I assume that your partnership with Forbes, they will put the full name Forbes behind it. What is your first immediate, most exciting next thing? What are you excited about now that the book is done?
Our delving deeper into the use of AI to create a data warehouse and a bot to assist us with squeezing out even more efficiencies in our processes and back office.
I love it. If you're up for it, I'll make some connections, because I get a lot of really nerdy people, and I'm obsessed with AI and systems, so I tend to attract those people. But
we did a deep dive into our systems, Jeff, and what we identified was there were multiple entries of common data sets being made into multiple IT infrastructure or softwares that was reducing efficiency but driving costs, cloud costs, storage, user interface costs. The list goes on and on. You know exactly what I'm referencing. So being able to build an AI bot that, alongside our human monitors, we can create efficiencies to have greater impacts on quality and outcomes of our patients and clients at the end of the services delivery narrative is very exciting to me.
I love it. Well, consider my nerd database at your disposal because, and again, I recognize you've got HIPAA and other issues, but old data models were all about, I'm going to date myself, but you had a little floppy disk and your data was stored there, and let's back it up somewhere. But now I'm obsessed with the Google ecosystem because the public stuff that we see and most people talk about, it's just the tip of a very cool iceberg. And I don't know if you knew this, but they have a fantastic health and wellness area that very few people know about, but they're obsessed with longevity and data, and it's amazing what they can do. So
tracking trends, tracking outcomes, having meaningful analytics is very important to running an efficient business and sustaining the mission. And I talk about that obviously in the last chapter of the book.
And for what it's worth, Ryan, there's a secret think tank sponsored by Google. They don't release it. It's not public. Rumors of it exist, but it's invite only. And basically they're tackling global climate change, environmental, like the global issues. I'm like, man, I would love to just sit in the room with those brilliant minds solving big problems.
And learn from them.
Yeah. It's, I when I was a kid, everybody was into sports. I was into thinkers, and I was obsessed with Einstein. And it hasn't gone away. So,
well, you're perfectly suited for what you're doing then.
Exactly, and I used to think, and this is going to be part of the rest of the conversation. I used to think I had to do it all myself, and now I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the conductor. I can tell who needs to come into a conversation, and I get out of the way and let them have their thing. But it's also, I'm there when the next conversation needs to be sparked. And
orchestrator, Jeff, you're an orchestrator, correct?
Yes.
You tell the woodwinds when they're welcome to join and when the cymbals need to be quiet, correct?
Yeah, that's it is funny. I love the symphony, and I spend most of my time watching the conductor. Like I've been weird all my life, and now it's like, wait a minute, there's a role there. And
yes, without partnerships, and people around you, accomplishing your goals to the degree that you set out is much more difficult if you think you need to be the one versus one of. Being one of is much more fun, much more rewarding, and much more efficient, deliberative, and scalable than trying to go it alone.
I love it. And part of this is why I do the podcast. I get to meet really, really cool people. And then it's like, I just connect them and watch the magic. And I'm fascinated by greater good and, community and movements. And, I look at Harley Davidson and Apple, and they're, to me, the two quintessential business movements, because people literally get in fights over what's better, Apple or PC. And the Harley crowd, they tattoo the brand on their bodies. Wouldn't it be amazing if a nonprofit had that level of fanaticism?
Agreed. I ride Harleys myself, Jeff.
The thing that fascinates me is Harley admits we're not the best bike out there, but people buy the lifestyle, not the reliability. And I don't know which brand. I think they said, if you want reliability, buy a Honda. And it's like, that's an interesting branding.
Yes. And by the way, I also have a tattoo of the Harley brand on my body. So you're not at all off base.
It's, like, to me, that's the holy grail. Apple's biggest problem, and they've said this publicly, is we have too much cash and we don't know where to invest it. Like, that tells me something about that business model.
And imagine having that problem every day when you got up.
Yeah. It's like, oh, another bag of cash. Where do we put it?
What do we do next?
Yeah. Do we buy a country? Do we, it's just, and honestly, like, I look at businesses, and I think One of the most instrumental books in my world for this was Who Not How by Sullivan and Hardy. That sounds like a comedy group. But when I read it, I was like, oh my God, that's because smart people, we ask how, and then we get busy. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, we spent 3 days tweaking this system. Somebody else could have done it in 5 minutes.
Agreed. Very, very, very real.
And honestly, you and I are going to have a conversation just about mindset, because one of the things I've studied is the relative size of companies and the amount of companies that reach a certain size. And not surprising, the difference between a 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, and billion-dollar company is how day-to-day involved the founder is. And I can't find a single billion-dollar company where the founder is doing the things. There might be one, but really, truly, most of them, they're focusing on the launch rather than the details of the launch pad.
So our Constellation's $1 billion, Jeff. It took us a little over 10 years to get here. And I am on the launch pad on every one of the businesses.
Yeah.
In close contact with the leaders, the highest ranking employee or CEO, involved with the boards, involved in their struggles, their compliance, their non-compliance. I and my team of 7 at Imperium are as close to the launch pad of those in the network as we are on the partnerships we're trying to mine to bring into the network.
I love it, but something tells me you're not building the launch pads. You're standing on it, directing people as an orchestrator.
That's correct. Yes.
I love it. I'm fascinated by the difference, because I was raised, I'm a farm kid, and it was, the mindset was that work ethic's going to save you and take you far. It's killed many a project because, oh, I can get it done, I'll figure it out myself, and oh, we missed a window, and we missed the launch window, and now we're going to have to wait. So
yes, that's why that team is important, to always keep you in check and on schedule and on point, and make sure that you have clear lanes and you're all operating within 1 inch of the goal. You can't have folks straying or being pulled away from what you're trying to achieve. So it's important to have leadership around you that is aligned and joined and all marching in the same direction.
I love it. Okay, we can do a whole episode on that. So where can people go to learn more about you and Imperium and the work that you're doing, Ryan?
Go to the Imperium website, which is www.inperium.org, or my website, which is www.ryandeweysmith.com.
I love it. And by the way, Ryan, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole of figuring out why Imperium has an N and not an M as in empire. So there's got to be a story there.
Masculine, feminine in Latin.
Ah,
M is masculine, N is feminine.
I learned Latin today, so you get bonus points for that. I love what you're doing. Consider me in your corner. I want to thank you for being on the show and for sharing your amazing story with me.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to follow-up conversations, and good luck with your show. Thank you so much.